Running a business means I wear lots of hats. Luckily, when it's time to put on my hiring hat, I can count on LinkedIn to make it easy. I can post a job for free or pay to promote it and get 3 times more qualified candidates. Imagine finding your next great hire in 24 hours. 86% of small businesses do. With LinkedIn, I can also easily share my job with my network. No other job site lets me do that. Post your free job at linkedin.com/achieve. That's linkedin.com/achieve. Terms and conditions apply.
Learning through play starts with Lego Duplo. With Lego Duplo, toddlers can develop real-life skills while having fun with colorful bricks made just for them. Large, easy to grip, and safe to explore. When children express themselves with Lego Duplo, they build patience, problem-solving, and empathy. See your child learn perseverance and self-expression with everything they imagine and create. Visit lego.com/preschool to learn more.
The Judge Jeanine Pirro, Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Happy Sunday, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. You know, I say it every show, but it's true. I'm looking at my what's called a rundown here, all the things I could talk about. There is not enough time in 1 hour. I need like a 7-hour show today. But I'm going to kick things off with the return of the human Chernobyl, the coconut queen herself. Kamala Harris looking for a Kamala comeback. Perhaps? I say no. Now, look, the reason why is, let's put it this way. When you see the name Kamala Harris, what's the first word that pops into your head? A, historic. B, winner. C, loser. D, inauthentic. Or E, both C and D. I'm going to go with C and D on this one. And yeah, she's historic, I guess, because she was the first female vice president, but she didn't earn it. She's the ultimate DEI hire. And of course, as you know, DEI stands for didn't earn it. She was installed as vice president, then she was installed as a Democratic nominee in 2024 Soviet style. So I'm going with loser and inauthentic. And we saw this over and over again as far as like when she has to run for national office, it doesn't go too well. In 2019, she is the first candidate to announce. Everybody's calling her the female Obama. She gets a lot of money. She has some momentum until she actually, speaks. And when that happens, and the more it happens, the more people simply do not like her because you don't know what does she stand for exactly. She's all over the place in terms of her positions between 2019 and 2024. I don't know what her moral compass is. I am certain I know Donald Trump's moral compass. I'm certain I know J.D. Vance's moral compass. I'm certain I know Marco Rubio's moral compass. She strikes people as the type of politician, and these are the ones they don't like most, as a person who will say anything to get elected. So in 2019, she runs and she drops out before we even get through 2019, doesn't even get to Iowa, flames out. You think that would be the end of her as far as national ambitions, but Joe Biden, he's doing poorly in 2020 as far as getting that nomination, and James Clyburn, South Carolina, says, okay, I will endorse you, I will save your campaign, but you have to have a woman of color as your vice presidential pick. And there's basically only like 3 people to choose from. Stacey Abrams, loser. Karen Bass, we see how that's going in Los Angeles. And Kamala Harris, who I guess is the most attractive of the 3. So Kamala gets the nod, and now she becomes vice president because COVID turned that entire election and the economy upside down. Then in 2024, as I said, she gets installed and goes on to blow $1.5 billion with a B dollars in 107 days of a campaign, loses every swing state, the popular vote, and 89% of counties in this country went more red than blue. But besides that, amazing campaign. So now she's back with this book, the aforementioned 107 Days, which why anybody would write a book about that nightmare in your life where everything that could possibly go wrong pretty much did. Every decision you make was wrong. Choosing Tim Walz, the least cultured guy that you would find in a bus station as your VP. Oh, boy. And then, obviously, skipping the Al Smith dinner and all those Catholic votes, not a good idea. And not doing any interviews the first 6 weeks of your campaign with anybody, that's incredible. And I could go on that whole McDonald's story, forget about it, which obviously, clearly, that never happened as far as her working there, and Donald Trump exploited that to a T. Everything goes wrong, and then she loses, and you think she'd go away again. But now, perhaps with this book, maybe that is a stepping stone to running for president again in 2028. I say no. I say this does not happen. She will not run for any public office ever again. And look, Democrats have nominated the same nominee in 2 straight presidential elections only once in their history. That was Adlai Stevenson, 1952, 1956. He lost in 52 to Eisenhower. He lost worse in 56, again, to Eisenhower. So if Democrats want to go down this road and choose Kamala Harris, well, it's not going to end well. And plus, she's a horrible candidate, let's face it. So I say she never runs. And just to underscore this perfectly, of course, she goes on Stephen Colbert on Thursday night and is asked by Colbert, and you're going to hear the question here in a second, and the answer is it shows she's regressing, actually, as far as the ability to answer a simple question and to articulate a simple thought and to give a definitive answer on anything. This is cut 9. Go.
You're not running for office right now. Yeah. You're stepping away from that life right now. Who's leading the Democratic Party? I'm just curious.
There are lots of leaders. And
there's generally a leader of the Democratic Party. You know, like, oh, that's the leader of the Democratic Party. Who comes to mind?
I think there are a lot of, I'm not going to go through names because then I'm going to leave somebody out and then I'm going to hear about it.
So in other words, just give us a leader. Just give us somebody who you could see as the future of the party. And she can't name anybody. I mean, this is unbelievable. It's like when she went on The View and she was asked by Sonny Hostin. This is T-ball of a question. The one question you exist to answer during that campaign. What would you have done differently from Joe Biden over the last 4 years? And she looks to the sky and she thinks about it and she goes, nothing really comes to mind. And that was the end of her campaign. So Kamala Harris, you can read about it in the Washington Examiner, WashingtonExaminer.com, my column this weekend. She will never run for public office again because I think she's come to the conclusion, or at least enough people have gotten in her ear and say, hey, look, no one's giving you money, that if she runs again the third time, ain't going to be a charm as far as winning the presidency or anything for that matter. Anyway, we'll be back with the great Mark Halperin on the other side of the break. This is the Judge Jeanine Tunnel for Towers Foundation show. Back with more in just a moment.
The Judge Jeanine Pirro Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
When you're having a baby, there's a lot on your mind. At Northwell's Staten Island University Hospital, you can rest easy with our reimagined labor and delivery experience. Our new Grapuso Women and Newborn Center provides private suites, overnight accommodations for a loved one, and a top-level NICU, all powered by the team that cares for the most moms and babies in New York. It's care made for Staten Island and made for you. Visit northwell.edu/newbaby. Staten Island University Hospital. Raise health.
Class is now in session. And the UPS Store is here to help you ace arriving on campus. Our certified packing experts can pack everything you need, from desktops to decor. Plus, when you pack and ship with us, you get our exclusive pack and ship guarantee. Your items arrive safe or your money back. Restrictions and limitations apply. To get a 20% off packing coupon and for full details, visit theupsstore.com/packing.
At Blinds.com, it's not just about window treatments. It's about you, your style, your space, your way. Whether you DIY or want the pros to handle it all, you'll have the confidence of knowing it's done right. From free expert design help to our 100% satisfaction guarantee, everything we do is made to fit your life and your windows. Because at Blinds.com, the only thing we treat better than windows is you. Visit Blinds.com now for up to 45% off site-wide, plus a professional measure at no cost. Rules and restrictions apply.
This is your before and after story. Instead of imagining a rewarding career in medical imaging, Southeastern College can actually take you there. Prepare for a career in ultrasound, radiology, and X-ray technology. With hands-on specialized training, simulations, and real-life experience with the latest imaging technology, you'll be ready to play a vital role on any healthcare team. Transform your life by helping others. Southeastern College. Your future is bright. Visit scc.edu to get started.
The Judge Jeanine Pirro Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back, everybody. Let's bring in our first VIP guest. I've been bothering Mark to come on this show for many months, and finally, I stalked him into actually appearing. Mark, of course, is the host of the two-way conversation every morning. It's great. It's 9 a.m. and it's just, I've said this, I've had Sean Spicer and I've had Dan Turrentine on the show. Mark's co-host, as far as it's a civil conversation, peace, love, and understanding. We get it every day where, yes, there's disagreements, but we don't have the screaming matches that we see on cable news so often. And the points are usually sober and they're valid. And, oh, by the way, they break some news on there, too. Mark is also the host of the At Next Up Halpern video podcast. That's every Tuesday and Thursday. And if you want Mark's concierge service, walkingduck.com/Mark. Sign up for all three, guys, quite frankly, because you get the best political analysis out there when Mark isn't on Fox News, of course, which he was, I believe, earlier this week. Anyway, Mark, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Joe, honored to be on. Sorry it took so long, but it was pure scheduling, not lack of desire.
Thank you. No, you're a busy man, and I really appreciate it. So I wanted to get your reaction to Kamala Harris appearing on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, the late-night therapy session that we see for Democrats on a nightly basis. And I was just struck by the fact that even now, after all this experience she's had as a senator, as a vice president, as a two-time presidential candidate, including as the installed nominee in 2028, that when she's asked basic questions where she could just give a pretty simple response, she has trouble in that department outside of a teleprompter. Let's play cut 9 here, guys. Go.
You're not running for office right now. Yeah. You're stepping away from that life right now. Who's leading the Democratic Party? I'm just curious.
There are lots of leaders. And
there's generally a leader of the Democratic Party. You know, like, oh, that's the leader of the Democratic Party. Who comes to mind?
I think there are a lot of, I'm not going to go through names because then I'm going to leave somebody out and then I'm going to hear about it.
So she couldn't name a leader. I mean, maybe that's a tougher question than I'm giving it credit for, Mark, because who really is the leader of the Democratic Party right now? And why couldn't Kamala Harris just say, well, I believe I'm the leader as it stands as the Democratic nominee in 2024?
Yeah, Joe, I'm reminded of what Bill Clinton famously once said about Mitt Romney, who also was a little bit verbally challenged on the public stage. He said, that is a very nice man, but he should not have a job that requires him to speak in public. And I think that's true of her. I mean, she's so self-conscious and she doesn't want to offend anyone. And that question is right in the wheelhouse of her problem, which is she wants to be liked. She knows that if she says the wrong thing, it can create controversy. And so she tries to say nothing. And that leads to word salad. It leads to evasions. It is not an easy question to answer because the correct answer is our party's screwed and we don't have a leader right now. But that's obviously not a politically possible answer for her to give. But it's more, that whole appearance, like it's politics 101. You go on a show, you want to drive a message. You want to have a soundbite that you're kind of trying to feature. I watched the whole thing. I still don't really know what her point was except to raise awareness for her book coming in 6 weeks.
And I saw in the morning meeting this week, Mark, how Dan Turntine was pretty much floored about the fact that here you have the 2024 Democratic nominee, Kamala Harris, big name brand recognition, especially in California, her home state. And she announces, after many, many weeks of people saying, yeah, we think she's going to jump in and go for governor of California. And she says, no, I decided this time I don't want to because I don't want to jump back into the system. That didn't get many headlines at all. And it's just, I'm just curious, is she, and I wrote about this for the Washington Examiner, so I guess I'll give you my opinion first, and then I'd love to get your perspective. I don't think she runs for public office ever again. I think that Democrats tried running Adlai Stevenson twice, 52, 56. He lost in 52, lost worse in 56 to Dwight D. Eisenhower. So I wonder if the donors are basically giving her a message, and maybe even her own advisors or husband saying, this won't be a good idea because third time probably won't be a charm when you run for president.
I tend to agree with you. I never say never, and she could change her mind. But I just think the prospect that she could raise the money, build the organization, build the team, and develop something to say that people find compelling for the real lives of real people, I think the odds of all that are pretty long. So I don't think she'll run. And I think that it's going to take some adjusting on her part because this is what she's known, right? She's been in elective office for decades now. And if she wants to be involved in the national town square, she's going to have find some other way to do it. Maybe the 8 o'clock hour on MSNBC might beckon.
Or The View. That's always a possibility. And we're talking to Mark Halpern. He's the co-host of the morning meeting on the Two-Way app. I have to get your response to this, Mark, as far as Democratic Party messaging. And I'm going to play for you the first of two clips. The first one is Eric Swalwell, and I'm sure you can imagine which one I'll be playing here. As far as him just deciding to post a video of himself pumping not a lot of weight at the gym, but this is cut 1. Go.
I should be working right now. I should be at the Capitol. I should be in a suit. Instead, Republicans sent us home because they would rather stand up for Donald Trump than release the Epstein files and stand up for victims. We could be at Washington, D.C., lowering your healthcare costs, lowering your grocery costs, and restoring your rights. I should be working right now. Instead, I'm pumping iron at the gym.
So the question is, Mark, is social media a net negative for Democrats at this point? Because they seem to be operating in their own silos, doing these videos that go viral for all the wrong reasons. And I think it may be contributing to the reason why they're polling, for instance, in Quinnipiac at 19% approval right now.
Well, it's not their biggest problem, and they have a few people who know how to do it. For instance, Mr. Mamdani in New York, I think, is a masterclass. AOC is pretty good, too. And there aren't tons of Republicans who are good at it. There are some. It's a mystery, even for professionals and who specialize there. And what works? And it's not just about going viral. I think people overemphasize that. It's about the daily drumbeat, maybe multiple times a day, where you're producing content that people really like. It's a big challenge. And again, you're right that Democrats aren't particularly good at it, but very few people are very good at it, I think.
That's a great point. We're talking to Mark Halpern. I want to turn to the 2026 midterms, Mark. And, people, and it's a sound analysis, except then I'll give the exception, which always defied logic. If the economy is going well and Trump's tariff gamble, and it's a big gamble, if that ends up paying off, and for instance, we saw earlier this week, a GDP, instead of being negative and going to recession that so many experts had predicted, is actually at 3%. We're seeing inflation still sitting below 3% when it was above 9% under Biden. Job report, not great, but not bad either. We're still around 4% unemployment, which is basically almost as low as it gets. And obviously border crossings down to 0. So a lot of good things happening in terms of Trump, and maybe the economy will continue to do better as we go into 2026. But maybe it isn't the economy, Mark, right? Because in 2022, Joe Biden presided over a horrible economy, and still somehow, yes, Republicans took back the House, but it wasn't a red wave, it was a red ripple, and then they still couldn't take back the Senate. So even if the economy is going well, do Democrats, because they don't have to gain too many seats in the House, maybe 3, I believe it is, they only have to do well enough in order for us to have House Speaker Hakeem Jeffries and then impeachment in perpetuity after that?
Yeah, look, they're going to be, barring some massive change in the terrain, there's going to be very few seats in play. The best thing Democrats have going for them is history, because it's rare that the president's party picks up seats in the House in an off year, in a midterm. And they also have going for them some aspects of the Trump record, including some parts of the big reconciliation bill that passed that aren't popular right now. On the other hand, Republicans are raising more money, and the White House is as aggressive a second-term White House as I've ever seen politically. Yeah. So I would say right now, anybody who tells you who's going to win the House majority is lying to you, because it's unknowable. But the Republicans have more reasons to be optimistic than the party in the White House typically would in this situation.
And we're talking to Mark Halpern. He is the host of the Next Up Halpern video podcast Tuesdays and Thursdays. Do tune in. Where do you see, Mark, and this is one of the most, it's as clear as mud as far as the impact that the Epstein controversy will ultimately have on Trump, especially as it pertains to the midterms. My colleague Britt Hume put it best. He says, conspiracies are two things. Rarely are they true, and rarely do they go away completely. And that appears to be the case here. So is there anything Trump could do as far as Epstein to quell the criticism from the right? And will this ultimately, because the news cycle moves so quickly with so many different things happening, does this thing eventually get swept away relatively, or will this continue to hound him up until the midterms and then up to the 2028 election when J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio, whoever the Republican nominee is?
I think that's unknowable, too, and it will largely depend on what the facts are. In other words, there's strong reason to believe that there's something we don't know, maybe some things we don't know. And I largely keying off Donald Trump's body language. The way he deals with this story is different than he deals with most things. And I don't know what the reason for that is, but it could be that there's more to know about his connections to Jeffrey Epstein. Maybe not illegal, maybe not even inappropriate by everybody's standards, but certainly something that, for whatever reason, he's not eager to have come forward. I'm also curious why he doesn't seem to have appointed anyone to take some of the heat off of him and to speak fully about the facts of the matter. So will this sustain? I suspect it will on some level. I think Britt's right, but I don't know that it's about conspiracy so much as silence.
It's the rule in politics, just like it is in sales. Always under-promise and over-deliver. And I think here, especially Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, probably over-promised on this one. And if they just quelled expectations, saying we're going to take a good look at this and we'll release everything we see, instead of putting out files to influencers on social media and talking about a list on her desk as Bondi did, I think that didn't do the administration any favors. Anyway, Mark, they're telling us that we're out of time, but we really appreciate it once again you coming on. And again, everybody, watch the morning meeting on the two-way app. It is just an incredible show. 9 a.m. with Sean Spicer, Dan Turntine, and the aforementioned Mark Halpern. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, sir.
Joe, thank you, Joe. Great.
Thank you, Mark. And we'll be back with the Judge Jeanine Tunnel for Towers Sunday morning show with David Bozell, the president of the Media Research Center. That's our next guest. Please do stick around.
The Judge Jeanine Pirro Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Judge Jeanine Pirro Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Okay, let's bring in our second MVP guest, Mark Halpern. He was great, wasn't he? Well, we're going to do even better here, perhaps. This is David Bozell, of course, the president of the Media Research Center, and reportedly a great guy and stunningly handsome. No, actually, I know this. I've met David many times, and I could say this is not fake news, David.
Not fake news. Let's beat Halpern. Let's make better radio than Halpern.
All right, done deal. So let's go into. I mean, you guys do the best work as far as these studies that you do. Curtis Houck, who did this one earlier this week, as far as the major networks giving 1,000 times more coverage to the Russia probe than the Gabbard bombshell. I mean, 1,000 more coverage, and one was. Basically gossip that was presented as gospel, and Gabbard has actual documents. And my question to you, David, is can this thing, as far as the Gabbard investigation and the DOJ into Brennan and Clapper and even Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, all these players that clearly tried to manipulate intelligence to make sure that Donald Trump wasn't elected, and then after he was, then to hinder his administration, hinder is probably a very soft word, for 3 years basically was a complete distraction from what Trump was trying to get done. If the media is going to go about it this way, then can this thing really take off?
Well, I'm gonna steal from the great Jonathan Turley, and I don't know if I can say it any better than what he suggested on Thursday night on Fox News. If the media were to cover this, they would have to admit their own culpability and their own complicity.
That's a great point.
In this whole scandal. Like Curtis has reported at MRC, 1,000 times more coverage for the original quote unquote scandal, air quotes, versus 2 minutes of coverage on Tulsi's revelations. 2,284 minutes that these guys devoted to concocting this ruse against President Trump. Now, when President Trump gets on the dais and he says to the American people that the media behind them, in the rows behind them, are the enemy of the people, this is what he's talking about. This is the scandal right here, that what he's talking about, because he knew that what they were reporting for over 2,000 minutes was a bold-faced lie. He knew that there was no way that Russia interfered with his election with using $87,000 in Facebook ads. He knew that everyone behind his rallies, all the media that were standing behind his rallies, reporting this day after day after day, were lying through their teeth. But I think this is why he just doesn't have, doesn't have any respect for the media. But when he calls them the enemy of the people and the media respond, that's over the top. But then he's looking at the totality of the coverage of a lie. You can't blame him when he suggests that. So will this get to that level? It will have to take the media owning what they did. And I don't think that it will. Now, I just suspect, I don't know if President Obama, Joe, will, I think President Obama, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm going to go on a limb and suggest that he enjoys the same level of immunity that President Trump enjoys. But I think there could be the mother of all defamation lawsuits in this country. From President Trump to President Obama. If I'm President Trump, I'm considering doing that.
That might be the only way to go at this point. And alternative media, though, and we're talking to David Bozell, the president of the Media Research Center. Great news website is newsbusters.org if you want to read the type of studies that we're talking about and analysis as far as the media that David Bozell just described. At least with alternative media now, almost seemingly more trusted and more viewed, whether it be social media, whether it be podcasts, whether it be, I can't say Fox is alternative media per se, but at least we try to pursue these stories with the vigor that they deserve. Perhaps that will turn up the heat here as well. I'll share with you two stats just to kind of underscore what you were just saying, David. Gallup had a poll out about 2 years ago, and it found that 83% of the American people believe the media exists not to inform the country, but to divide the country. And boy, that is so true. But this is the telling poll that I want to show with you. This was from YouGov. It was in 2018, and they asked, do you think that Russia not only interfered with the 2016 election, but changed vote totals? And 80% of Democrats believed, forget the Russians and $87,000 worth of Facebook ads, like literally went into voting machines and changed votes for Donald Trump. So mission accomplished, I guess. And that's the impact here. When we say the media doesn't have any influence, I think they have less influence, but they do have influence over Democratic voters.
What was the number on the Republicans? Do you have that in front of you? I'd be kind of curious.
Oh, as far as Russia changing vote totals in 2016?
Yeah. If 80% of Democrats believed it, what's the percentage?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, they only polled Democrats, so either 80% believed it or 20% said no, they didn't change vote totals. So that's a stunning number.
It's just, I actually think it's kind of low.
Yeah, you're right. You think around 99 or so.
Every Democrat I talked to are near unanimous that they believe it. So I think the 80% number is pretty low. Yeah, well, that goes to show you these networks still have power, right? Breitbart did a great analysis of President Trump had dipped in the polls in April when the tariffs were on again, off again. This is Trump 2.0. And then Breitbart did a very cool analysis, and they looked at at 5 polls. They aggregated them together, and they looked at the voter demographics in 10-year intervals. So 18 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, and so on and so forth. In every single demo, President Trump was either neutral or plus since the inauguration.
Wow!
Except for plus 70 or more seasoned listeners. They had a negative 14 point approval rating for President Trump. Negative 14.
Wow.
What's the reason for that? I think our seasoned voters are doom watching CNN, MSNBC all day long, and then come nighttime, they turn on their favorite network evening newscast and doom watch that, and then maybe they'll get around to watching a movie. And all day, every day, across the board, and MRC just did a study about late night television as well. It's just total blackout of conservative guests. It's just one liberal after another, dogging the president. So I think that's how you get 80% Democrats believing that Russia, right? Everything they watch is telling them to believe it.
Yep, groupthink, I believe, is how Tucker Carlson puts it. I saw that one study that the MRC did, David, where leading up to the 2024 election, Colbert had something like 161 Democratic either lawmakers or left-leaning celebrities on, and then they had one Republican on. I'm like, who could that one Republican be? And of course, it was Liz Cheney, who
right.
I don't know if we can put her the R next to her name when she's campaigning with Kamala Harris.
That's right. I mean, look, we're old enough to remember the Late Show with Letterman. You could get lost on YouTube for an entire day watching great old bits from Letterman. And I can't remember a single comedic bit that Colbert did that he was responsible for, other than the cringe ones when he did the vaccination sing-along.
Vaccine, yeah.
Or when he had Jon Stewart on to essentially goof on him that COVID was orchestrated out of Wuhan. But those weren't bits. I mean, Letterman had bits that crossed party lines and made fun of both sides, and then stupid human pet tricks and goofy stuff like that. Colbert would have Cory Booker on every other night. I mean, who wants to watch that guy?
Yeah.
And who wants to watch Tammy Duckworth every other night? Who wants to watch Liz Cheney every other night? If you're going to plant your flag as just another left-wing show with left-wing guests catering to a left-wing audience, don't be surprised when the company that pays your bills and that $40 million worth of bills says nope, and the ratings were terrible. You can't be surprised that he got canceled. So it's too bad. I liked his bit when he was goofing on conservatives from the right on Comedy Central. That was good. That was funny. He was obviously playing a character, and maybe he just didn't want to do that for the rest of his life. And I respect him for making the change, for giving him the old college try. But Comedy Central Colbert was much funnier.
Oh yeah,
than CBS.
Yeah, somebody else who ran, David, in 2020 was Eric Swalwell. And apparently he could bench press, get this, a whole 135 pounds 10 times, which I could do basically in 7th grade. So let's hear Eric Swalwell. You can't play this clip enough. This is cut 1. Go.
I should be working right now. I should be at the Capitol. I should be in a suit. Instead, Republicans sent us home because they would rather stand up for Donald Trump than release the Epstein files and stand up for victims. We could be at Washington, D.C., lowering your healthcare costs, lowering your grocery costs, and restoring your rights. I should be working right now. Instead, I'm pumping iron at the gym.
I think social media, David Bozell, is the worst thing that ever happened to Democrats, because some poor intern had to film Eric Swalwell lifting that very relatively light weight from above, and they put these videos out, and they're so cringe that I would think that some sort of political advisor, if they could control it, would say, this is not a good idea. Don't put this out. You're going to be mocked to oblivion. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. So social media, if we're talking media, I think it is a net negative for Democrats, while Donald Trump obviously has turned it into the ultimate net positive.
They're just like the news. They're fake. I mean, look at him gasping for air, trying to get through his words.
Yeah.
How about Chuck Schumer? Putting cheese on uncooked hamburgers.
Oh yeah.
Celebrating, what was it? Juneteenth, 4th of July. I don't know which one, but I mean, speaking of Swalwell, he goes viral for all the wrong reasons. I mean, passed gas on national television. Everybody infrareded that, and everyone figured that one out. I mean, he could try to run for president, but that'll be his lasting image: the infrared of his tooth on national television. So I just it's not authentic, Joe. I mean, look, Donald Trump is a lot of things. You can't accuse him of not being authentic. He will say what he means what he says, what's on his mind, and he shoots from the hip. Now, that could get him into some trouble, right? Sometimes it's ready, fire, aim, but people appreciate the authenticity. These guys are. I mean, how many takes did that take?
Probably
trying to
several.
Get through that.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so they're just not good at this. Now, and it's also, think of the advantage that the left has had over many, many decades. Right. They had these 3 networks. They had the Fairness Doctrine in the early 80s, right, on radio. And their worldview was the only worldview that the American public received. But when the Fairness Doctrine got lifted, in comes the great Rush Limbaugh.
Yep.
Conservatives taking over talk radio. Liberals tried. I think it was America's Voice, if I'm not mistaken. Something they tried their own liberal network. That failed. Following Rush Limbaugh, Fox News says, yeah, we can do this, right? We can start our own network, right? Fox News beats them at ratings every single hour of every single day by a country mile. So the balanced approach wins on cable news. The balanced right-wing approach, center-right approach wins on talk radio. Social media is really no different, Joe.
Yeah.
Obama used Facebook with weapons-grade precision in 2008, and then we can complain about how Romney approached the campaign back then, and how he approached digital.
Yep.
But then conservatives planted their flag. We figured it out, and now for better or worse, conservatism sort of dominates Facebook right now. And the same thing with X.
They're winning.
And for all the flaws there, God bless Elon Musk for buying X. These are the biggest communication platforms that man has ever created, and the center right viewpoint dominates them all.
And the funny thing is that we see these reports now that Democrats are trying to find the next Joe Rogan. Guys, you had Joe Rogan. He was a Democrat that supported Bernie Sanders. Right. You can't just create this in some sort of lab, but that's where we're at. And unfortunately, they're telling me that we got to wrap now at this point, David. But, hey, I really appreciate you joining us once again. He is the new president of the Media Research Center, a great guy. And, yes, he is stunningly handsome. David Bozell, enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
All right, my friend. Take care. All right, this is Joe Concha. This is the Judge Jeanine Tunnel for Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. We wrap this puppy up in just a moment.
The Judge Jeanine Pirro Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Gatorade is the #1 proven electrolyte blend designed to hydrate better than water. So you can lose more sweat and raise your game. Gatorade, is it in you?
As a sports fan, I have to confess. Sometimes the game gets kind of boring. That's when I unfold my Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 and use multi-window viewing on its large screen. Boring game? I'm checking out my fantasy baseball league at the same time. Score still 1-0? I'm replying to emails in the other window, scoring points with the boss. Semifinals finally getting exciting? I'm buying tickets to the finals and booking my flights. Can your phone do that?
The new Galaxy Z Fold 7. Get yours at Samsung.com.
Hey, Fidelity. What's it cost to invest with the Fidelity app?
Start with as little as $1 with no account fees or trade commissions on U.S. stocks and ETFs.
That's music to my ears.
I can only talk.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Zero account fees apply to retail brokerage accounts only. Sell order assessment fee not included. A limited number of ETFs are subject to a transaction-based service fee of $100. See full list at fidelity.com/commissions. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
This episode is brought to you by Chevrolet. Chevy certified service technicians are factory trained to fit your vehicle with the tires specifically developed for it. And with our tire price match guarantee, you get the best fit for the best deal. Let us do the work. Available on select eligible tire brands at participating dealers only. Offer ends 12/31/2025. Terms apply. See dealer for complete details. Visit Chevrolet.com/service to learn more.
The Judge Jeanine Pirro Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, that was one fast hour. Let's close with a bang, shall we? So we just spoke to David Bozell, and I wish I could have got to this clip from the Media Research President as far as the two different worlds that perhaps audiences live in when it comes to even economic news, which are numbers, right? It's hard to spin a number too much, especially if we're talking about trade deals, for example, by President Trump, or in this case, how the GDP grew by 3% in the second quarter when most experts were predicting a recession, which means negative GDP. So let's compare here. This is cut to Fox News, my network, versus CNN as far as the right way and the wrong way to cover a good GDP number. This is cut to go.
GDP, this is the first read of the second quarter coming in at 3%. That is better than expected.
We have an economy growing at, what do you say, 3%? We have inflation at 2%. That's the best of both worlds.
Yes, it did rebound to an annualized rate of 3% during the second quarter. Even though headline GDP rebound, this economy has actually started to lose some momentum.
Wait, what? It just grew by 3%. This is the same idiot on CNN that was predicting a recession. Now he's saying, well, yeah, it grew 3%, but, forget the number. I think it's actually slowing. Oh, good Lord. So that's all you need to know as far as when you see Trump's poll numbers and you see him polling at 50% approval. I think he's at that around in Rasmussen right now. And you say, well, how could that be when you have the economy is really picking up and we have unemployment that's as low as basically it can get, around 4%, and you have inflation basically sitting at around 2% right now when it was above 9% under Joe Biden, and border crossings basically down to 0. And obviously Iran and the actions taken there as far as their nuclear program. I could go on and on, but you'd say like Trump should be higher. He should be more like JFK type of numbers, like in the 60s, but he's stubbornly around 50%, high 40s. And then you realize, oh, right, because half the country, maybe not half, but enough people, especially older people, are getting their news from CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Daily News, and so on. So I think that's why the numbers kind of stay where they are with Trump when they should be higher, because we have a media that can't even spin, or at least tries to spin 3% GDP when people thought it would be negative into somehow being not so great thing. Anyway, let's hear from, I mean, this is just incredible, by the way, as far as Senator Amy Klobuchar. And Klobuchar was a huge advocate of the horribly named Inflation Reduction Act under Joe Biden, which only increased inflation, was really just a new Green Deal and packaged differently so they could sell it to Democrats in the Senate like Joe Manchin, who later regretted his vote on the Inflation Reduction Act. But here's Amy Klobuchar sharing a story that totally happened. I mean, this absolutely was not made up. This is Cut 8. Go.
I was up in Grand Marais, Minnesota, and saw someone walk out of a grocery store, just happened to be walking in, saw her look at her receipt, she's looking down, and she's just, no. That's how people are feeling. They're looking down at those going, no, I can't afford this.
It's weird, though, because Klobuchar never shared once an anecdote like this when inflation was above 9% under Biden, of people looking at their grocery bills and saying, no. I'm sure people just visibly do this in front of senators at supermarkets. Like, oh, I can't take it anymore. And look, I'm not saying that prices, aren't high right now, but that's only because they skyrocketed under Biden, and now inflation doesn't mean you bring down prices, but you slow prices from going up too fast, and that's exactly what Donald Trump has done as far as it getting down to 2%, which again is basically as low as you're going to get. Finally, let's play this report from ABC News. This Sydney Sweeney controversy is just by far the stupidest thing that in a decade where we've heard a lot of different stupid media reports, but this is absolutely the worst. Now, who's Sydney Sweeney? She's an actress who happens to be quite attractive, and she does an ad just like Cindy Crawford used to do Pepsi commercials where she looks great in the jeans, and she's a white girl, and I guess that's now a bad thing because she says she has good genes from her parents. Well, apparently that is Nazi propaganda. Cut 6, go.
Time to check the pulse. We begin with the backlash over a new ad campaign featuring actress Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah, the ads are for American Eagle, and the tagline is, Sydney Sweeney has great genes. Now, in one ad, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed actress talks about genes as in DNA being passed down from her parents.
The play on words is being compared to Nazi propaganda with racial undertones.
Nazi propaganda. You can stop it there, Rich. I mean, what? All she said was, I got good looks from my parents, and I have good genes, and that's suddenly Nazi propaganda? Oh, American Eagle. I mean, the stock went up after this, of course. These boycotts don't work anymore. The left is losing this argument. I'm without words. I'm speechless. I'm without speech. This is Joe Concha. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This is the Judge Jeanine Tunnel for Towers Sunday morning show. We'll be back next Sunday. Enjoy your first August and Sunday, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Sunday Morning Show. You can hear Judge Janine's Tunnel to Towers Sunday Morning Show Sunday mornings at 10. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder, what the heck is going on here?
Life is a workout, and Smoothie King is here to help you power through. Whether you're crushing morning miles or sprinting through back-to-back meetings, give your body the energy, protein, and power it needs to help you conquer your goals. Only at Smoothie King.